I'm going to introduce our speakers today. So we have Ellie Baldini. She is hosting our webinar today. She is our wonderful VP of Marketing at Go Media, leads the integrated marketing strategy, creative initiatives, and revenue growth. She has 10 plus years of experience driving growth across healthcare, orthodontics, SaaS, and digital media. She has expertise in building scalable marketing engines that generate measurable business results. She's a former head of content and ad vision, leading AI-powered content, SEO, and affiliate growth. She has a proven track record of growing teams, increasing revenue, and turning brand trust into long-term business success. And we have a special guest today. We have Annarose Quinn. She is a field marketing manager at Align Technology. She is supporting orthodontic practices across the West Territory. She partners with providers to drive practice growth through strategies, patient-focused marketing. She specializes in creating practical, repeatable marketing frameworks that increase patient acquisition. She focuses on helping practices navigate today's digital patient journey. And she is an adjunct lecturer at the University of Arizona, combining education with real-world, results-driven marketing expertise. So over to you guys to get this webinar started.
Thank you so much, Marissa. Hello, everyone. So excited to have you. Welcome to Storytelling in Marketing, the hero's journey for patient growth. Like Marissa said, I am Ellie, and I am joined by my good friend, Annarose, who is amazing. We're so excited to have her, and we're so excited to have all of you. First thing that I will say is I am thrilled to be talking about a topic that is near and dear to my heart. Annarose knows this about me, but I am a huge nerd. And so I was very excited to get the opportunity to talk about some of my favorite sci-fi and fantasy stories and how they connect to orthodontic marketing and marketing in general. So it's going to be a great session. And we are excited to have you all. Just a few other housekeeping notes. Marissa already mentioned the CE portion of this. Make sure that you stay through the duration and scan the QR code at the end. We'll provide instructions about that. But you are going to get a recording of this session. So if you have to drop or someone from your team wasn't able to join, just know that you are going to receive that from us. And you're also going to receive a ton of supplemental materials to help make the lessons that we talk about today really actionable in your practice tomorrow, in the weeks to come. So keep an eye out for that. And don't feel like you have to take a ton of notes because you'll get the recording and you'll get all of the actionable materials. Last thing that I'll say is this is not just a sit back and relax kind of session, though we certainly want you to enjoy yourselves. We are going to have some moments of interactivity, and we really encourage you to participate, whether you're entering things into the chat or whether you are participating in our polls. We would love to have as much engagement as possible. Without further ado, we will go ahead and get started. So first things first, I want to show you guys something that we refer to as the sea of sameness. You can probably tell that this looks really homogenous, but none of it is really all that distinct, right? And if I asked you to potentially pick out your practice from this collage, you might have a hard time. Honestly, I would have a hard time. So do me a favor and put into the chat what this screen makes you feel. What is a word or two that you would use to describe the creative that you're seeing here?
Call out some of the things that you see, right? Like the consistent themes that you see here too, like color or exactly blue and teal.
We see lots of blue and teal in dental marketing, don't we, Annarose?
Yes, we do. One of the things that I do want to say on this topic is that, like, you know, there's some benefit in consistency, right? Like, you don't want to be so different that you're not recognizable as an orthodontic practice or a dental practice, but you also don't want to look like every other practice out there, right? Like, this sea of sameness it's easy to get lost in. And I think that's kind of the point we're getting at, right, Ellie?
That's exactly right. It's easy to get lost and it's hard to stand out. And I think something important to hone in on is what is actually causing the sea of sameness. And one thing that I do want to hit on is if that collage that we just reviewed elicited a reaction in you that you often get when you're scrolling your feed, you're not alone. The sea of sameness has extended to a lot of different channels, social media first and foremost. And a lot of this has been accelerated by AI. I do want to go on record as saying this is not an anti-AI webinar by any means. Annarose and I both use AI in our jobs every day. And honestly, I would encourage every business leader, every marketer, practice owner, member of a practice to embrace AI because, that's the future, and it's a really powerful tool for efficiency in a lot of ways. But one sort of offshoot of the AI renaissance is that we have really lost some of the sort of the individual and human-focused content that allows practices to stand out. It's easy to produce more than it's ever been before. Volume is the new table stakes. And in many cases, the practices that we work with are all producing the same type of content. So don't think about AI as the enemy, but definitely think about AI as the accelerant of some of these homogenous trends that we've been seeing. Annarose, how are you feeling about AI in your day-to-day?
Listen, I'm in my personal life AI maxing, right? Like I use AI for everything I can. I think it's super helpful. But the big thing with AI is that we should use it to think faster, not for us, right? And so when we're all putting the exact same input into our like generative AI platforms, whether it's ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude, Copilot, like any of the other millions that are out there now, when we're all putting the same thing in there, we're going to get a similar output, right? So if we're putting in Diamond Plus provider, Invisalign provider, latest technology, friendly staff, like all these things, it's great, right? Like these are all points we want to hit, but we're all going to get a very similar output. And there's no story in that, right? Like there's no, like you said, Elliot, there's no human aspect to it. And in this age of AI, people are craving human connection. So we can still use AI to make ourselves more efficient and our jobs easier, but we should be using it in a way where there's still our story that we want to tell in it.
100%. I think that's really well said. Okay, so one thing that we can sort of think about that potentially pushes back against the sea of sameness and sort of this homogenous marketing that we're seeing is flipping our narrative frameworks that we use in marketing on its head. So one question I would like to pose to you guys that potentially elicits some discomfort, but that's kind of the whole point, is what if we have been casting the wrong hero all along? And what I mean by that is, in so many cases, when we are looking at how different practices are marketing themselves today, they are putting the doctor and the practice front and center as the hero, when in reality, it's the patient that belongs front and center as the hero, because that's going to elicit the emotion and the narrative beats that really can make a patient and a prospective patient connect with your practice and make a practice stand out. So that's the challenge that I want you all to think about, and sort of the million-dollar question that we are going to sort of interrogate today. Okay, so I am a huge Lord of the Rings fan. I told you guys that I was a huge nerd, so this is not the only Lord of the Rings reference that you are going to see today, full disclaimer. But I wanted to pull this movie poster in because I think it really does sort of showcase exactly what I'm trying to get at, where we're saying that in this scenario, for so many practices, the doctors are the hero of the story and the practice is the hero of the story, and the patient is nowhere to be found. They're quite literally not even on this poster. We kind of like drew them at the bottom there. They're not the Gandalf, they're not the Frodo, they're not front and center. And so when we think about the framework of the hero's journey, flipping that on its head, we want to put the patient as the one that's going through the different trials and tribulations that bring them from the ordinary world all the way to the other side of the patient's journey. And we're going to talk about exactly what that means step by step.
And if you're not a huge Lord of the Rings fan, you could think of a couple other movies where this applies. So think about Harry Potter. You can think about even like Cinderella, Finding Nemo, like Disney classics. They all follow the same framework where you have Cinderella as the patient or the hero of the story, right? The doctor would be the fairy godmother, right? They come in as the guide and the helper, and we'll get into that framework in a little bit. But just in case you're not a big Lord of the Rings fan like Ellie is, there are a couple other examples.
And if you're not, why aren't you? I don't really know what to say.
Great question.
So let's go to another poll. So which of these lines sounds most like your marketing if you had to pick? All right, so we're the credentials practice is still in the lead, but we do have some other participants who feel like these other lines resonate with them. The bottom line is actually all of these headlines get at the same sort of challenge that we're talking about today, which is all four of these headlines lean into value props that put the practice as the hero of the statement, right? All of these are leaning into the credentials and the expertise of your practice. And do not get us wrong, that is super, super important. Those are value props that you want to lean into. Your prospective patients care about those tremendously. But what's really happening is if you're leading with that messaging, you're just putting it in the wrong place in the story. Think about a movie, right? Like, what if you had the credits as the opening hook of the movie? That's not going to be very interesting. It supports that this is potentially going to be a great film or a great book, but what you really want to lead with is what is the emotional journey that you're going to go on with your main character, with your hero. Annarose, I feel like you probably hear lines like this all the time in the practices that you work with.
All the time.
Talk a little bit about, do they resonate? Where do they belong in the marketing funnel? What do you think?
I hear these all the time, and I think you're 100% right, Ellie. Like, they're so important. And, as doctors and team members behind a doctor, you all work so hard to get these things and to make these things true. Unfortunately, in the world that we live in, everyone has an amazing team, you'd hope, right? Everyone's at least saying they have an amazing team. Everyone has technology. Like, these are kind of table stakes in a practice these days. Not everybody has your story. Not everybody has your why. Not every patient has the same experience from practice to practice to practice. I think from a psychology standpoint, right, the only way we can perceive the world is through our own eyes. And so if we take a step back and we step away from the doctor role or the TC role or the hygienist role, and we think about our personal life as a consumer, our first question is always, what's in it for me? What am I going to get out of this? Why should I care about this? And so if you can hook them in with their why and then support your role as their guide through their journey with your credentials, with your Diamond Plus status, with your newest technology, that's how you get them believing in what you can offer. That's how you have them buy in rather than sell them, right? Like, none of us want to feel like we're in sales. We all want to feel like we're doing something good for the world, because you are doing something good for the world. And we want patients to know that you can help them achieve this beautiful smile, boost their confidence, fix this problem they've had their entire life. The way to do that is to get them thinking about themselves in your practice every 2 months, every month, whatever it is. They need to know what's in it for them before they know why they should trust you with it.
Couldn't agree more. And again, like credentials, newest technology, Diamond Plus, all of these things are value props that belong in your marketing messaging. What we're really trying to say is they don't need to be sort of your lead headline, and there's a way to flip them on their heads so that they will resonate a little bit more from a storytelling perspective.
Yeah, we talked about this a little bit a couple of weeks ago, Ellie, that like, what are patients lying awake at night thinking about?
Yeah.
They're not lying awake being like, thank goodness my doctor went to this school, or thank goodness my doctor has this status. Like, oftentimes patients, in layman's terms, probably don't know what it means, right? You have to get them in your practice to have that experience for them to understand the value of your credentials, of the new technology, of your Diamond Plus status, of your amazing team. But what's going to get them there? How are we going to get them in there to experience it? Well, they're probably lying awake at night thinking, is this going to hurt? Physically, is this going to hurt?
Yeah.
Or is this going to hurt my wallet? What's this going to cost me? We have to think about what they care about. And then that's how we get them brought in.
100%. And what you're hitting on also, like some of the friction points that happen when they're lying awake at night thinking about sort of, their personal journey is actually mapped to the hero's journey. So that's a perfect segue into Joseph Campbell, who is the guide to our story, just like we are encouraging you all to be the guide in your patient story. So Annarose kind of hit on this already, but Joseph Campbell basically studied a bunch of different myths and stories, across literature, across film, and he came up with a really interesting discovery, which is that basically no matter what medium you're working with or whatever narrative construct you're working with, we're all pretty much telling the same story and we're all pretty much following the same flow. And I think like you can think about this even in the examples that we just shared, right? Frodo in Lord of the Rings, Odysseus in the Odyssey, because that's another movie that I'm super excited about. Cinderella, like Annarose said, Moana. to quote some Disney ones, Luke in Star Wars. Like, on its face, those narratives don't necessarily have a ton in common, but when you really break it down, our main character is following the exact same phases to get to the end of their story. And the great news about that is a repeatable framework that you can use from a narrative perspective in orthodontic marketing, and that's what we're going to talk about. So thanks, Joseph Campbell. Okay, so this is the hero's journey right here. And don't feel like, again, you need to take a ton of notes. This is going to be included in sort of your follow-up packet. But I just want to walk you through, when we talk about the hero's journey, what this actually looks like from a story perspective and from a patient perspective. So first things first, we are in the ordinary world, and your patients start out in what we call the ordinary world. This is where they are before they encounter your practice. And this is actually where they are before they even are ready to pursue a solution via your practice, right? This is their status quo. And then for my marketers that are in attendance, this is where we're in the awareness phase, right? They are in the ordinary world. They know that they have a problem, but nothing has really sparked them to action. Next up comes the call to adventure, right? And in the different narrative frameworks that we just talked about, I think we can all pick out when that happens. It's when Gandalf approaches Frodo. It's when Harry Potter gets his letter inviting him to Hogwarts, right? For our patients, there's typically an inciting incident. Maybe they saw a photo of themselves that they really didn't like, or maybe their best friend's wedding is coming up, or maybe they're in pain. There is something that calls them to adventure, that sparks action, that prompts them to leave the ordinary world and pursue a different solution. The third step is reluctance/refusal, and we're going to talk about this phase quite a bit in just a minute. This, from a patient perspective, is where you will typically encounter their objections. Is this going to hurt? Am I going to look like a teenager in braces? I don't know what to expect from this process. I'm overwhelmed by my choices. Do I actually want to go through with this? Is this going to be really costly? These are your hero's reluctance and refusal thoughts, and it's really important that your marketing is addressing some of those fears and hesitations. That's where meeting the guide comes in. So again, in our narrative frameworks, I think we all have an understanding of all of the different guides that happen in literature and film, right? Again, it's Gandalf, it's Hey Mitch for Katniss, right? Every hero has a guide, and that's where your practice comes in. So instead of putting your practice front and center as the hero, this is where they sort of enter the narrative. Your practice steps in, makes them feel better about their reluctance and their refusal and their concerns, and lets them know, hey, we are here for you. We are going to guide you to the other side of this journey.
And that's where you bring in your credentials and things like that to build trust, right? We said we were going to come back to this. Your credentials don't go away. The investment you've made with your time and your money in technology and education, that doesn't go away. That has a place here, right? Like when you get them in your practice and you're trying to work through these refusals and objections, and they're like, well, what about cost? Doesn't Invisalign cost more than braces? Actually, we have price parity. How long is this going to take? I don't want to be in orthodontic treatment for 2 years. Well, we can actually do this in as little as 6 months. Like, with our new technology, we can show you what your smile might look like with this outcome simulator. Like, giving them peace of mind is this part of Meet the Guide. And this is where your credentials, your experience, the number of patients you've treated, any of your case studies that you can present, that's where this all comes in.
Absolutely right. Love that. Okay, then the patient begins treatment. That falls in the trials portion, though hopefully it doesn't feel like a trial and tribulation within your practice. And then last but not least is the return home. Your patient returns transformed. Every hero returns back to the ordinary world, a different person, changed by the experience, hopefully for the better, and the same is true for your patients. Okay, so I'm going to pass the mic to Annarose for a second to talk a little bit about the difference between being the guide and the hero, but this is what we really want to convey. Again, your practice and your doctors and your team, it's not that they don't belong in the story. It's just that we are challenging you and encouraging you to think about them as having a different role in the narrative.
Yeah, I'm going to go with my favorite example of this, which is Finding Nemo. Hopefully everybody has seen Finding Nemo. I would hope. So the hero of that story is actually Marlin, Nemo's dad, right? Every story is going to follow this same pattern. Enter Marlin. They find that they have a problem. Okay, so Marlin's problem is that Nemo is taken and he has to cross the ocean to find him. If you remember, Marlin doesn't want to leave the reef. Marlin doesn't want Nemo to leave the reef. We have to stay safe. Marlin has this fear, right? It's an emotional fear that we've learned about Marlin. He has anxiety, he lacks trust, and he finds that loving someone means that you have to live in fear, right? Like if I love this person, I can't let go of this person. So you have an emotional fear and maybe a physical fear, and then maybe a belief that we're trying to change. Okay, so that's the problem. Enter guide. The guide in this story is Dory. She listens, she encourages him, she sticks with him, she models optimism, resilience, and forward motion, and she comes with the plan, right? If we think about this in the framework for your marketing, for your orthodontic or your dental practice, right? The hero, like we've said, is the patient, not the practice. They have an external and an internal problem, right? Their external problem might be crooked teeth or a smile they're not confident with. The internal problem is what they're feeling, right? It's that confidence issue. The guide is your practice, and it gives you an opportunity to lead with empathy and authority, like that credential piece we talked about. So the example I'll give is if we're gonna pretend we're treating an adult, right? You have an adult that comes into your consult room, and the hero, the adult, they want a confident smile, but they don't want treatment to disrupt their life. Their external problem is that they have crooked, shifting teeth and maybe a smile that they've always wanted to improve. Their internal problem is that they're feeling self-conscious, overwhelmed by options. They don't know who to trust or where to go. Enter guide, the practice, the doctor. We understand that starting treatment can feel like a big decision. That's your empathy. You lead with the emotion. We've helped hundreds, we've helped thousands of patients straighten their smiles with customized treatment plans, and we're confident that we can help you do the same. That's the authority piece. If you have the credentials, the technology, the education, whatever else it is that you want to bring in at that time, that's where you put it there. And then the guide comes up with the plan, right? So if we're going to do this with Finding Nemo first, the plan is keep moving forward, ask for help, and don't give up. Just keep swimming, right? Then there's a call to action. You leave the reef and search for Nemo. If you don't do it, Nemo stays trapped. Marlin lives in fear. Their relationship never grows. But if you do this, if you follow Dory and you trust her, Marlin finds Nemo. He learns to trust. Nemo gains independence, and their relationship becomes stronger and healthier. If we go back to this adult patient example, right? The plan is schedule a consultation, get a personalized treatment plan, and start treatment with confidence. Schedule your Invisalign consult, and we'll see if clear aligners are right for you. If you don't do it, your teeth are going to keep shifting, confidence is going to stay on hold, and you always have this I'll deal with it later mentality. But if you do this with me as your guide, we can straighten your teeth, you'll have confidence when you're smiling, you'll have a treatment experience that you feel good about, and you'll feel good about your decision, and we can do this together. So it might feel weird to use these examples with, Gandalf and Frodo, Yoda and Luke, Nemo and Dory, but it still stays the same, right? If we think about repeatable frameworks, this is a framework that you can put yourself in and every patient in, whether it's an adult, a teen, a kid, a family, someone who's been in treatment before and relapsed and needs treatment again. The hero can always change based on the person that you're talking to. The guide always stays the same.
That's exactly right. Really well said. And the great thing is, I'm so happy that Annarose mentioned repeatable frameworks, because that's also the benefit of using the hero's journey as sort of the foundation of your marketing narrative, right? Because it is so familiar to us, whether we can name it or not. And your prospective patients are going to feel the same way when you position them like this. They're familiar with the hero's journey just because of the media that they consume. And all of us, whether we're conscious about it or not, want to be cast as the main character in the story.
I'm the main character of my story.
Of course you are.
You're the main character of your story.
Absolutely. Exactly right. Main character energy only. Okay, so we've kind of been in theory land talking about different frameworks. Now we're going to move into sort of practical application. So here's an example of a headline that we commonly see: award-winning Invisalign provider with 20 years of experience. And what I want to challenge the group is, think about, does this meet the criteria that we just talked about, where we're positioning the patient as the hero? Annarose, what do you think?
I'm going to go with no.
I am also going to go with no. So do you have any thoughts about how we could potentially reposition this to be a more patient-focused statement?
Yeah, I'm also curious if anyone wants to drop their thoughts in the chat too. If you have an idea of how to rewrite this to put the patient as the hero, I'd love to hear some of your thoughts and ideas. You can lead with confidence. You can lead with cost. You can lead with time, right? You have to think about who the hero is and what they care about, right? Like what keeps them up at night. If it's cost, then you can put something like affordable treatment to give you a smile you'll love for a lifetime. Right. And if you hear like it's you, we're putting you at the front of this, not I, not we. We're leading with the hero, right? Give them something that they can put themselves in. I don't see anything coming in the chat, but I'd love to see. There we go. Making patients smile for 20 years. That's better. That's better. But that's still kind of about the practice, right? Like that would be where you lead with the authority piece. Like we know this is scary. We've been treating patients for over 20 years. I'm confident we can do this with you too, right? What if we said something like, I don't know, Ellie, what do you think about a provider you can trust? It's still a little bit about the practice, but that's pretty good.
Or like love your smile again is always a good way to go. Again, like just using your statements.
Finding your smile again. I love that. Confidence through your smile, even something as like straighten your teeth or fix that tooth that you've always wanted to fix or something like that, right? Like you can be cheeky with it. But it has to be something that the patient is experiencing.
Yep, exactly right. All right, this one is maybe like level 2, a little bit more challenging. Do we think that this one passes the patient is the hero test? Let me tell you about our practice and our technology.
I'm going to give it like 30 seconds. Let's have some people drop it in the chat. What do you think?
I mean, I think that this one does not pass the test, but I definitely think that we can rewrite it.
I'm going to say it doesn't pass the test. And you might want to put something in here more like, tell me about why you decided now's the right time to start looking into this.
Yep. I love that. Yeah. I really encourage practices that I work with to think about tell me statements, because that really does position your practice as an authoritative, trustworthy guide. And also using a tell me statement subconsciously prompts action, whether you're actually doing something or whether you're thinking about doing something. It helps move your prospective patients out of the reluctance stage and into, okay, I'm ready to go on the journey.
Yeah, and if, like we just talked about how the hero's motivation might be different, right? It could be cost, it could be time, it could be confidence. If you say, tell me about why now is the right time to start looking into this, you're going to get them talking about their why. And then that gives you the in to lead with your empathy and authority and say, I see that a lot from, maybe you have a teenager in there who plays sports. I see that a lot from teens your age that are also in contact sports that, they need to start orthodontic treatment, but they're a little bit worried about getting hit in the face. So I've treated hundreds of teenagers with Invisalign. We can totally do this together. Let's talk about how.
I love that. And again, we're really just trying to foster a connection between the guide and the hero, right? I mean, we talked about Finding Nemo. I think that's like such a good example. Dory can only be an effective guide when Marlin starts to trust her. And the same is true for your practice. So from a marketing perspective, you want to always be leading with messaging that fosters that trust before they even enter the building, so that there's already sort of that inherent built-in trustworthiness and foundation of empathy before they even start talking with you. So, okay, based on that, which of these consults would you book? I know my answer.
I know my answer. I have a feeling we're going to pick the same answer.
I agree. And if anybody picks the latter, then I feel like we're going to have to start the session all over again, because the message is not sinking in then.
This is actually a test now, everyone.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about what actually makes the patient the hero in a very practical sense. What are some pieces of criteria that practices that do this really well typically all embody? Annarose, you're in the field all the time. Would love to hear your thoughts about what are some qualities that practices that do this really well all have in common.
Yeah, I actually love talking about this first one because we always talk about before and after photos, right? Like, seeing is believing, unfortunately. And if you only see the after, that's something that's more aspirational rather than something that's attainable, And we want people to see your practice, your outcomes, your results as something that's attainable for them. So if you can show the before, that gives people something to resonate with. I also have an open bite. I also have crowding on my lower arch. I also have spacing. Like maybe it's a gap in the front two teeth. Like people don't know if you put, do you have a diastema? No one's going to know what that is, right? Like we have to speak to people how you would typically have conversations with your friends or your family members, and then show them that you're able to treat those things. We want to show the before photos. And then you also want to show that moment of decision. A really great place for this is social media. I have a couple of practices that I've had start doing something where when you start treatment and you like get your attachments put on and you pop your aligners in for the first time, you go ring a bell. And every time someone rings a bell, you take a video and you post it on your story on Instagram. And then at the end of the month, you do a roundup of everyone who started treatment that month ringing that bell. And then at the end of treatment, you can also have them ring the bell and then show that before and after photo. And all these little moments, it might seem tedious to capture them, but you're building a story. And you're giving your potential patients an opportunity to see what their experience is going to be like if they let you be their guide. And then the third is that the team becomes a supporting cast, right? Like in this linear story, the doctor or the practice would be the guide. In the practice, you have supporting characters, right? Like you have your front desk staff, you have assistants, you have hygienists maybe, you have treatment coordinators. All of these people play a huge role in the story that we're going to create for these patients. So we want to show your patients who these people are, whether that's on an about page or just photos on the website showing the entire team. Showing your team interacting with patients would be really great. Celebratory photos at the beginning and end of treatment with everybody in them together. It's just about like creating this culture, right? Like culture sometimes seems like a buzzword. It's like an untouchable, and it's really hard to create if you don't know what it is. But culture is created through small decisions that you make every single day, small experiences that you create for people every single day. And when you start to capture those and put them in your marketing messaging and put them in your imagery and your videos around your marketing messaging, now you're creating a story. Did I miss anything, Ellie?
No, I love that. I think that you hit on everything. And I especially like leading with the patients before, because something that we talked about when we mapped out the hero's journey is for the hero's journey to be complete, they have to end the journey returning to the ordinary world changed, right? They have to have gone through a transformation. And so if we are not leaning into imagery and messaging that really does capture the patients before, then we're sort of diluting the impact of the after, which is that moment of transformation. The other thing that's really important that we're going to talk about in just a second is showing the moment of decision really helps counteract the stage in the hero's journey that we refer to as reluctance, where, you know, the hero is about to refuse the call, where Spider-Man says, you know, I'm just an ordinary kid in New York. I can't have superpowers, right? Or Luke is like, I have chores to do. You know, I can't go with you, Yoda. So it's really important from a patient perspective that the moments of hesitation that they have around cost or the unknown or pain potentially or choice overwhelm, we're addressing that with marketing messaging. Okay, so I kind of maybe gave this away a little bit, but I would love to know from you guys where your marketing is the weakest right now. And I can tell you that I think Annarose and I both have perspectives on, from the practices that we work with, where that typically falls.
While they're dropping it in the chat, Ellie, where do you see this the most?
I would say for me, reluctance is the biggest area of opportunity, right? I think, well, first of all, I think that's the most emotional moment in the hero's journey and also the patient journey, because the ordinary world is typically where marketers do a really good job. The awareness stage is where our messaging is typically highest volume and resonating the most. We all know, you know, sort of how to get our practice stories out there, but I think a huge opportunity is actually putting forth messaging and imagery that directly addresses the hesitancy that happens before a patient actually decides to answer the call and step into your practice.
Yeah, 100%. I see that's what's coming through in the chat too.
Yeah. So the great news about that is you shouldn't feel like if you have a weak point in your marketing funnel, that is something that you can't overcome, right? Identifying a weakness in your marketing funnel means, on the flip side, that you have a huge area of opportunity. And the great news is that if we are all trying to stand out from the sea of sameness, identifying where in the hero's journey potentially you have a gap is the key to differentiating yourself.
Yeah, I kind of want to give a maybe opportunity for a visual here of like when you think about this as a funnel, right? For the marketers in attendance today, you think about awareness. We'll keep it really simple. Awareness, consideration, conversion, right? And if your weakest point is in this consideration phase, I would call that like a leaky bucket. And so if you're just filling your bucket with water and water and water, or leads and leads and leads, or awareness and awareness and awareness, and you get a ton of awareness and eyes on your practice, but there's a hole in your bucket on this consideration stage, it doesn't matter how much water you dump into that bucket because it's still coming out the side, right? If we can patch that hole and address that leaky bucket or fix that weakness, which in this case would be reluctance, then all of the eyes that you're getting on your practice in that awareness stage are actually going to work a lot harder for you. And you're going to have to do less work up there because you don't have to pile on as many people as you can to just like get by in this consideration stage to get to the conversion and start treatment. When you can optimize your consideration, then you have to do less on the awareness stage.
100%. And this is a webinar that's mostly focused on storytelling, but we could do a whole different webinar about the cost benefits of making sure that you don't have leaks in your marketing funnel or your marketing bucket. If you
don't get me started.
Right, exactly. If you have to work less hard at the awareness stage, then typically that means that your spend goes down and your leads just convert more efficiently. So maybe that's a part two. Okay, so again, going back to the blockbuster poster that we just talked about. If you have your doctors front and center and you don't necessarily have a place for your patient, then what does that mean for your marketing funnel? It means that you're not moving your prospective leads through effectively, and you don't have a repeatable framework that makes sense for them. One thing that I want to shift to, and this is the point in the session where we are going to get a little bit meta, actually, is yes, we've talked about the hero's journey. Yes, we've talked about how the hero's journey is a great framework for you to use for your prospective patients. But actually, while you have been listening to me and Annarose, you yourself have been on a hero's journey. You started out in the ordinary world, right? You believed that marketing means promoting your practice and leaning into the credentials that make your practice and your doctors and your teams different. You were doing your thing in the ordinary world. Then you were called to adventure. You were asked by us, okay, what if the patient is the hero? You were challenged with something that maybe made you think differently about the ordinary world that you were living in. Potentially, some of you had some reluctance and refusal. Maybe there was some discomfort when we asked that challenging question. Maybe you didn't feel great when we talked about the sea of sameness, or potentially you didn't feel like you wanted to answer the question of where is your marketing the weakest? And so consciously or subconsciously, potentially you had some hesitation. But the good news is then you met the guides. That's me and Annarose using Joseph Campbell's framework. Hopefully we made you feel like this is a framework that is really accessible and that you can understand and take action on in small and simple ways when you go back to work after this. And we did that by fostering trust and hopefully eliciting some empathy. Okay, but then Annarose took you through the trials. We had you rewrite some headlines. Potentially there was a little bit of a quiz in there. That was the trials and tribulations portion of the hero's journey. But the good news is after the trials and tribulations comes the return home. And that is you leaving the session changed, hopefully for the better, with some beliefs that were challenged, but also all of the tools that you need to operate in the ordinary world even better than you were before.
And we're not asking you to go rewrite your entire website and change your brand tagline and just like redo everything. Like, we don't want you to just demo everything and start over, because that's a lot. And if you're anything like me, Ellie, I have a feeling you might be the same way. I leave things like this and I'm like, I'm going to start from scratch. I'm going to do everything over. I'm going to change everything. It's going to be so great. And then I get about halfway through, I get burnt out, I get tired, and I'm like, I'm done. This doesn't work. I'm over it. Screw it. We're going to go back to how it was before, because I just stopped caring. So the way to do this is to do it in bite-sized pieces, right? Like Ellie just walked through all these things that we've learned. Start small, right? Think about like the way you speak in your consults. How can your TC use this? How can you change maybe your Instagram captions? Or if you're running paid ads on Meta, how can you change your call to action to be about the patient? If you have a graphic designer on your team, how can you have them change some of the graphics that you're running as ads? Think small and then just phase it out, right? Like don't try to do everything at once. It's gonna be a little bit too much.
100%. I am definitely the same way, all or nothing most of the time, but don't be like me and Annarose. Don't get overwhelmed, and definitely take it in baby steps.
What's that saying? Do what we say, not what we do.
Exactly right. The good news is we are arming you guys with something that will hopefully help you make this really actionable and not overwhelming, and that's the elixir. Because in our hero's journey, we said that the hero is going to return to the ordinary world changed and with an elixir. And that is the Patient as Hero marketing map, which you can see here, as well as a bunch of other support materials that you'll receive after the webinar. Just to give you a little bit of a preview, you'll get this map and a little bit of a how-to guide about how to use it. You will also get some worksheets that encourage you to rewrite headlines and captions and marketing messages that you are considering using to make sure that they are patient-centric and not practice-centric. And you are also going to receive a checklist that you can use every single time you are about to produce a piece of marketing collateral, a video, anything that you want to use in your sort of marketing toolkit. Go through this checklist and it will help you determine, does this pass the sniff test? We did this in a small way with the little headline rewriting exercise. This worksheet will help you do this every single time so that over time you are producing content that consistently puts your patient front and center as the hero of the story. Okay, guys, so go cast your patient as hero. That's the final message that we're going to leave you with. We believe in you. You guys can do this. Stand out from the sea of sameness, and make sure always that you are casting the right hero. All right, I'm going to open it up to questions, and I believe that Marissa from Team GPS is going to be our MC. So I will hand it to her, and Annarose and I are happy to answer anything that you might have thoughts on.
Thanks, guys. I am going to monitor the chat, so if you have any questions, put them in the chat and I will relay them to our hosts. I have some direct message chats that I can also bring up. So I'm going to ask the first question from one of our participants. They said, the biggest takeaway for me was that the idea of the patient being the hero, not the practice. What's the first mindset shift you'd recommend a team to make when applying this?
That's a good question. My biggest piece of advice for it is to think about yourself in the seat of the consumer, in the seat of the patient, right? If you're thinking about going to an eye doctor, or if you're thinking about going to receive any service that you're going to go pay for, think about the questions that you ask. What's in it for me? How much is this going to cost me? Is it easy for me to do? So start asking yourself these questions while you're writing your marketing messaging, rather than thinking about, this is what I want them to know about the practice. This is what I want them to know about our treatment. Think about it from your own lens as a consumer first.
I love that. Probably the other thing that I would add, and this is maybe even one level down or a smaller thing to consider, is really make sure that you are challenging your understanding of your own dental vocabulary, right? Annarose hit on this earlier. As marketers, we constantly take for granted that our consumers know the same terminology that we use, especially in healthcare. So really a good mindset shift is to basically assume that our consumers and our prospective patients are operating from a place of unfamiliarity. Have a lot of empathy for that, and then simplify your language.
Perfect. Thank you for that. We have one in the chat from Lucy. Should we remove any marketing we currently have on our website that has us as the hero?
What do you think,
Great
Annarose?
question. I'm going to say don't remove it. update it. And you don't have to do it all at once, right? Like start by just go through your website with a fresh set of eyes, right? You just learned all this stuff about making your patient as the hero. Pretend you've never seen your website before. Go read through everything. And every time you see something that says something about the practice as the hero, mark it. You can print it off as a PDF. You can download it and do it on your computer, whatever's easiest for you. But I think actually going through and marking it up is the best way to go audit, for lack of a better term, your website for this. What I want to be careful with too is you don't want to go through and just strip your entire website of everything about your practice, but you want to find those key moments where maybe it's a couple of headlines or a long paragraph that's about the practice, break that up into bullet points and make sure that the patient is at the center of that story rather than the practice, right? But if it's a bio about the doctor, don't remove that from the website, right? Like that still needs to be about the doctor, but there's a place for that. Ellie, what are your thoughts on it?
No, I totally agree. I think that's really well said. I think, again, this goes back to you don't want to try and solve this entire problem all at once with an all or nothing approach. You want to be as systematic as possible if you think that maybe this is a shift that your practice needs to make. So definitely conduct an audit and also think about what are your highest visibility pieces of marketing. Like the homepage of your website is a great place to start, right? You want to make that really patient focused and that is probably where I would recommend that you start. But that doesn't mean that you have to go through every single social media post you have ever put together and make sure that it passes this checklist. Start small. Start with the things that have a ton of visibility, and then slowly but surely start chipping away.
Perfect. I think that answered our question very thoroughly. Okay, I have another one. How do we make the patient the hero while still showing that we're the experts and building trust?
I truly do think that it's a balance. And I think that this goes back to this whole notion that we are not saying that your practice and the expertise that you have worked so hard for doesn't have a place in your marketing narrative, right? What we're saying is shift roles. Shift your practice from the hero role to the guide role. So that doesn't mean there shouldn't be any messaging or headlines anywhere on your social or on your website or in your videos or anywhere else that doesn't sort of demonstrate how much experience your practice has or how tech forward it has. It just means position it in the context of the patient's pain points and the patient's mindset.
Yeah, I think that there are ways to insert the practice in the story where it doesn't make the story about the practice. My favorite example of this is if you can quantify your lifetime Invisalign cases, let's say, that would be a really great thing to put on your website or in a blog post or a social media post or something like that, where it's come see us for an Invisalign consultation. We've treated 5,000 patients with Invisalign and we're confident we can help you too, right? It's still calling them to an action. It's still making it about them, but you're putting it in there that you're an expert in what you do. It's also, not to go down this rabbit hole, but quantifying that is a great way to show up on things like ChatGPT and Google Gemini, because that's how AI reads your website. So anytime that you can quantify something it's good for the way that our search engines are going.
Again, I think that we're going to have to do a part 2 of this.
Sorry, you're stuck with me.
No, I'm so here for it. That's great.
All right, last one. And speaking of AI, we have an AI question. So with everyone using AI to create more content, how do we make sure our marketing still feels human and different?
I'm sure we both have a lot to say about this, Annarose.
I have too much to say.
You kick us off.
I'll bring it full circle and I'll keep it really simple. I think I said this before. AI should help us think faster, not for us. And it all comes down to what we put into it and how we coach it and what we do with it once we get it. So you don't want to just write me a blog post about Invisalign treatment for teens, because it's going to spit something out. It's going to pull from all these different parts of the internet, and maybe it's going to put something in there that you don't agree with, or it doesn't have your philosophy on treating teens with Invisalign in there. So I think the best way to do it is to kind of brain dump into it. Give it your thoughts, give it your opinions, give it a case, obviously be HIPAA compliant, and give it all of your information and say, write this as me, as the doctor, as the treatment coordinator, for the patient as the audience. Make the patient the hero of this story, and then have it spit it back out to you. Read it. Make sure you read the output, the whole thing, and either give the AI, the generative AI, your edits or edit it yourself first. We just want to make sure that you're putting your own thoughts and your own words in there. I think oftentimes with AI specifically, you run a risk of your messaging being really different from the way that you actually speak in practice. Mm-hmm. And so a huge thing with marketing is consistency. So when you have external marketing going out saying, hey, we think you'd be a great patient for us, come see us, and it's this one version of your marketing with this language that maybe your office doesn't speak in, and then it's like super formal and clinical, and then they get into practice and you're actually like really friendly and warm and fuzzy and totally different from your marketing messaging. Whether you realize it or not, that's a subconscious disconnect that you're making with your patients. And so you just want to make sure that there's pieces of you throughout everything, from social media posts to your website, to the way that you speak to patients in practice, to how you celebrate at the end of treatment, right? It should all feel consistent.
I love that. I truly couldn't have said it better myself. I completely agree. AI should be the accelerant and the amplification tool, but it should not be the end all be all. All right, guys, so we are right at time. Thank you so much for joining Storytelling in Marketing. If you want to learn more, make sure that you visit gladwellpracticesolutions.com. We cover topics like this in a variety of different courses, whether you want to learn more about marketing, whether you want to learn more about conversions, whether you want to learn more about call scripting or objections. We really cover it all, and we would love to have you all join us and learn more on GPS. And then, of course, connect with Annarose. She is a field marketer extraordinaire and is always happy to answer questions and engage with you in the field. And also, don't forget to scan the QR code to make sure you get CE credit for attending today's session.
And reach out to your Align rep. They're always there to help you. We have a ton of resources on the Invisalign Doctor site for this. If you just go in and you search Marketing Bootcamp, there are about 12 videos that dive deep into some of the things that we talked about. And your Align rep would be more than happy to go through that with you as well.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. And thank you, Annarose, for being here with us. We will definitely have you back.
Oh, thank you. I had so much fun.
It was great to have you. All right. Thanks all. Have a great day.
Bye, everyone.